Support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum. Located in Jennings City Hall, the museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is a historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. Additional support provided by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and viewers like you.
I kept wondering if anyone would figure out what was happening, why the Russians were involved in our election.
Donna Brazile opens up in her new book and to us.
They did not get the majority of popular votes for the U.S. House.
Gerrymandering, the U.S. Supreme Court, and Louisiana.
Let's go big. Let's go big.
Go big. It's the only way for the Bingle Bells.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andre Morrow. In a moment, a look at each of those stories. But right now on the state we're in, this week's other headlines.
12.5% of registered voters went to the polls this past weekend in Louisiana. They elected Republican John Schroeder state treasurer in a runoff over Democrat Derek Edwards. LaToya Cantrell was the first woman ever elected as mayor of New Orleans, and Baton Rouge voters said yes to a 2% hotel tax. Pushback on the Republicans' fight to get rid of the historic tax credit dominated Monday's Baton Rouge Press Club. Fairleigh Cook Jackson, who heads up Preserve Louisiana, discussed what the credit put into the tax code in 1986 by President Ronald Reagan has meant for our state. She says much of the rebirth of downtown Baton Rouge has relied on the 20% credit to rehab crumbling historic buildings. The same goes for wide swaths of New Orleans, Canal Street, for example. D.C. consulting firm Place Economics says in Shreveport, the average investment on rehab projects has tripled, and the downtown population has grown 90% since the year 2000. Place Economics says Louisiana ranks at or near the top of the U.S. when it comes to historic rehab of commercial buildings. Over the last decade, our state has steadily increased payments to nursing homes, even as occupancy rates have stayed flat and quality of care rankings have hovered near the bottom. That's from a new report from the State Legislative Auditor's Office. Over the last year, Louisiana nursing homes received about $1 billion in Medicaid payments. Some state lawmakers are urging major nursing home reform to save big money.
We send our prayers for one of the state's longest-serving lawmakers. Senator Francis Thompson from Delhi tells the Monroe News-Star he is set to have prostate cancer surgery on December 13th. Thompson has served in the legislature for more than 40 years. Donna Brazile grew up in Kenner, finished at LSU in 1981, and was on campus for a book signing and talk this past Friday night. She's been in the spotlight since the release of her book. It's an account of the Russian hacking of the Democratic National Committee and the fights within the party during the 2016 presidential campaign. I had the chance to briefly speak with her.
Donna Brazile returned to her LSU stomping grounds and captivated the crowd at Hill Memorial Library with her charm, wit, smarts, and unapologetic views about her new book, Hacks. She describes it as dripping with hot sauce. It certainly is stirring up enormous controversy since being released 2 weeks ago. Her memoir debuted at number 3 on the New York Times bestseller list.
I've seen you on Bill Maher, I've seen you on several shows talking about what you're talking about.
I love my country. I love traveling across the country. I've spent the last 40 years of my life getting to know the American people by going into their communities, traveling. Over the last week, I've been everywhere from San Francisco, Los Angeles to New York and Miami, now home in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and I leave here and go to Atlanta.
The lengthy subtitle says Hacks is the inside story of the break-ins and breakdowns that put Donald Trump in the White House. She says her mission is to deliver tough love and tough lessons to the Democratic Party, and she is not backing down from those not thrilled about what it says.
I'm not worried about what people are saying about me. I'm concerned about the hacking that took place last year and what the repercussions are in terms of going forward.
You must have known that you were going to write something as you saw this unfold before you.
I kept wondering if anyone would figure out what was happening, why the Russians were involved in our election. And we learned that they were involved to discredit Hillary Clinton, to destroy the Democratic Party, and to sow discord. When the election was over with, I traveled across the country. I gave the Clinton team ample opportunity to write their own autopsy when it was clear to me that they were not going to come up with any autopsy. Being a great Louisianian, I decided to write the last word.
In the book, she takes direct aim at what she calls three titanic egos in Hillary Clinton, former President Barack Obama, and the woman she replaced at the helm of the DNC, Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz of Florida. Brazile took over as head of the DNC 4 months before Clinton's unexpected defeat. In the aftermath, she reveals she was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder.
You know, Hillary Clinton has written her book. Bernie Sanders has written a book. Joe Biden's book just came out, Barack Obama. This is Donna Brazile's book. I have served as chair of the Democratic Party now twice in my life. I've been a longtime activist and someone who has spent my entire adult life, from the moment I left this great campus until the last couple of weeks, working on behalf of Democrats. So we need to learn more about the collusion. We need to learn more about how Twitter was used, Facebook was used. We need to learn more about the money that the Russians spent in our election. The most important thing we need to figure out is how to protect our democracy, how to ensure that no foreign country whatsoever meddle in our election in 2018 and beyond.
The U.S. Supreme Court has taken up a case that seeks to measure partisan gerrymandering. What could it mean, this decision, for Louisiana? LPB's Kelly Spires is here with more on this. Kelly?
According to the experts, Louisiana has the 6th most gerrymandered U.S. congressional districts in the country. We sat down with Brian Marks, who studies gerrymandering with LSU. What is the U.S. Supreme Court considering, and how would it affect Louisiana?
The question that's before the court is there a constitutional violation of voting rights of Americans on the basis of partisan gerrymandering? It could potentially affect every state. One question, of course, will be if they don't vote to say that there is a constitutional standard for how gerrymandered a state legislature or a congressional delegation can be, that is going to open the door for more and more aggressive partisan gerrymandering.
I think we should back up. What exactly do we mean by gerrymandering?
It is fundamentally drawing district lines to bring about some kind of political purpose from what would otherwise be what I would call fairness. And fairness is a very subjective term. In the entire country in 2012, the first congressional election since redistricting in the last cycle, the Republican Party, in terms of the majority of votes, they did not get the majority of popular votes for the U.S. House in all the 435 districts, but they gained a 33-seat advantage in the U.S. House. And that gets to the question of, can the minority of Americans rule over the majority of Americans through their representatives? And if that can be, we don't really have one person, one vote.
The experts think that Louisiana specifically is gerrymandered. Can you tell us about our case here?
In Louisiana in 2010, compared to the 2000 redistricting cycle, we saw a marked increase in partisan gerrymandering within the state's congressional delegation, the 6 U.S. House seats. And among the 50 states, Louisiana is ranked number 6. And ultimately, if you think about the state of Louisiana, with 6 congressional seats, we tend to earn about 60% Republican votes and about 40% Democratic votes. We probably shouldn't have, on the basis of that voting, 5 strongly Republican districts and 1 strongly Democratic district. Why Louisiana has been so high in gerrymandering? One, of course, reason is we lost a congressional seat. We went from 7 to 6. Part of it was maintaining, under federal law, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, a majority African American district in the 2nd congressional district, formerly basically the city of New Orleans. That's part of the explanation, but many other states also have majority minority districts.
How does race affect gerrymandering, or what's the role of race in gerrymandering?
You can gerrymander for racist purposes. Basically, if you have an area which is majority African American, you can split that majority into, say, 3 or 4 parts. It's called cracking. In that sense, you would be putting 20%, 30%, 40% of that population amidst a majority of white voters. In that sense, that black population, which could, if it had its own district where it was the majority, elect a representative of its choice, that's the term from the federal law, then you've cracked them and broken them up. But going too far is also unconstitutional. If you pack too many black voters into one district, you would also be denying them equal rights to vote under federal law, because you would be basically stuffing them all into one district where they would be wasting most of their votes.
Are there mathematical, I guess, equations that show that a district is gerrymandered?
There are mathematical measures, including a measure of compactness, which is to basically say the degree to which a district looks like a circle would be perfect compactness. It's not necessarily proof that there is therefore partisan or racial or other forms of gerrymandering.
The Supreme Court case has another measurement that it's put forward called the efficiency gap. Can you explain what that is?
Every vote that you cast that you don't win a seat for your political party, that's a wasted vote. And every vote that you cast that's above 50% plus one to win the seat is also a wasted vote. And if you tally them up over the course of an entire state legislature or an entire state's U.S. House delegation for the different political parties over time, you get a sense of, is one political party, in a sense, spinning its wheels? Are lots of voters casting votes and not having any effect in terms of electing someone to office?
In Louisiana, when you look at the congressional districts, a lot of times, if you look at a race, you'll see a lot of Republicans running or a lot of Democrats running, and not necessarily these two parties like running against each other. Maybe there won't be a Republican running, or maybe there won't be a Democrat running. How do you measure the efficiency gap when there's only one party that's putting candidates into the race?
I think in some ways that's one of the weaknesses of the standard. To some extent, America has changed in the sense of the so-called big sort, which is a very popular thesis among some social scientists, that people are sorting themselves out through migration and self-selection of where they wish to live. But America is not self-sorting itself to the extent that we're seeing from redistricting. Essentially, what we have with partisan gerrymandering, extreme partisan gerrymandering, you have representatives selecting their voters, not voters electing their representatives.
So moving forward, what is best practices for redistricting?
Of the 50 states, there's about a dozen right now who have taken away from the politicians the ability to draw their own districts. I think the idea is essentially the public and the politicians have a very justified role in setting the standards. What are the principles? What are the guidelines? What is the process for what we want our districting to look like? And then I think the idea is handed over to technical experts in a commission of a nonpartisan, non-biased manner to put in place those principles. There's nothing to prevent the states from taking the initiative. There's nothing in federal law that says we have to do things this way. Lots of other states are doing it.
All right, well, thank you very much for joining us.
Okay, you're welcome.
There's a group pushing for that kind of council in our state. It's called Fair Districts Louisiana. Marks will speak at a day-long symposium they're hosting on the topic at LSU on January 19th. You can find more information at the address on your screen. Andre?
All right, Kelly, thanks a lot for that. We appreciate it. A state wildlife and fisheries survey shows the duck count in Louisiana is about half of what it was a year ago. This month, Louisiana Public Square explored some of the issues the state's outdoorsmen face on Louisiana, Sportsman's Paradise or Problem. Here's an excerpt.
What do you see as some of the challenges for Louisiana's coastal fishermen and coastal duck hunters, whether it be from a land access standpoint or from a habitat standpoint?
Being in the coastal region and doing what I do, charter fishing for a living, I mean, our biggest problem that we have on the coast is access to our water. I mean, our access gets thrown off every day. We're getting thrown out of places that been fishing 25, 30 years, and then all of a sudden now they come in and they tell us we can't go there. I mean, who do we know who they really are, to be honest with you? But I mean, we're on the public's water. I mean, we're not on the land, we're on the water, places that we've been traveling for the last 30 years. So that's really our biggest issue, is access to our waterways in the coastal areas.
And Rudy Sparks, you're here from the Louisiana Landowners Association. Why do you feel like these conflicts have arisen over the last 5 or 6 years where we didn't have so many before?
Well, I think part of it is that we're seeing a constant change in the terrain and in the habitat. And so that creates some questions in some people's mind as to where does the private land stop and where does the public land start. And I think in many cases over the years, landowners have been willing to allow fishermen greater access to their properties and some of their private canals, but for a number of reasons, particularly the fact that we're really struggling in trying to preserve our coastal marshes. They're so fragile, they're being eroded, subsided, and a lot of damage is caused when some of these boats get into these interior marshes and begin to churn the waters. And so as landowners and land managers who are hired by these landowners, we have a responsibility to protect those resources and those assets that those lands have. And so I think that's part of it. There's a lot of concern about that and the potential deterioration that's caused to these marshes as a result of these fishing activities.
I want to know, what are we going to do about the feral hogs?
Mr. Secretary.
We're working with the Department of Agriculture very closely. They're looking at biological projects that they're looking at for sterilization. They're looking at all kinds of and they're doing research right now for different kinds of feedstock where they could feed these animals to get rid of them. The biggest problem we've had is warfarin was the first initial product that came out to get rid of the hogs, but the collateral damage that would have occurred is far worse than where the hogs are at today. I think, with the research going on right now, I believe within the next year or two we're going to have some biological answer to the problem that we have with feral hogs. Certainly they're a horrible problem, and a lot of the problem we're having with deer population and the habitat for deer is responsible. The responsibility comes from the feral hog destruction of that habitat. So that we are working with agencies. We're working with LSU. We're working with the Department of Agriculture. There are some national companies that are working and looking at some alternative resources that we may be able to apply to get rid of these hogs. So there is a lot of work taking place. I wish I could snap my fingers and they could go away, but it's not like we're not doing anything, and we do realize the importance of that issue and what effects it has on the rest of the landscape within Louisiana.
You can watch Louisiana Sportsman's Paradise or Problem online at lpb.org/public square. Since 1996, the Bengal Bells have provided unconditional support to LSU's student athletes. The Booster Club has given back in 7 figures to the university. I sat down with their president, who's all LSU all the time. This is Amy Seymour, and a big LSU fan. We can certainly tell that, can't we?
Yes.
Do you know what you have on? Can you explain to me where you got all the stuff that you have on right now?
Well, I do shop 365 days a year to be a Tiger fanatic. And we have vendors at our Bengal Bell meetings, and these ladies come from Covington, and they're called Haute Couture, and it's hats. And so I get a lot of my hats now from them. They're vendors, and they make these gorgeous hats. Hot Doms.
It works, it works. This is interesting because it was a little over 20 years ago, in 1996, that the wife of then coach Jerry DiNardo came to you with an idea. What happened?
Well, as I said, I shop 365 days a year. I always wore LSU clothes. It didn't matter when you couldn't buy it. I would sew it. I mean, I felt like I want to be a Tiger. I want to be purple and gold, or a Tiger fabric. But anyway,
the Tiger dresses, the Tiger pants.
Yes, everything. But she saw me and she said, "Do you work for LSU? Because you're always dressed so LSU." I said, "No, that's just who I am." And she said, "Well, I think you're the kind of person that I'm interested in finding out, would women in Baton Rouge be interested in forming a club about football?" I said, "Positively, not a doubt in my mind." She said, "Well, let's have about 50 women." I said, "Terry, I have 50 friends I could get to do it. Let's go big, let's go big." Our first meeting was at Lod Cook, September of 1996, and we had 250 ladies there. First meeting ever. We've never had 250 again. We've had way more than 250.
But tell me what Bingle Bells does.
Well, the interesting part is that we wanted to have a club, but you have to think to the future. What is a club of fun ladies? What are we going to accomplish? And can we maintain the excitement? Can we maintain administration, a new coach? Can they allow us to keep being part of their system unless we have something quality? So she said to me, if we go the academic route, we will always be appreciated and respected, and no one can shut us down. Administration or a new coach will not dare say we don't want people talking about academics, but in the style of who we are in Louisiana, we make it fun, we make it exciting. Yes, we're talking about academics. And early on, people were like, what? Academic center? What's that? Everyone assumed players get a scholarship, but they just danced through their 4 years. And it sort of was like that maybe many years ago.
Sure. That's changed, and the evolution of the academic center happened, and that happened under Nick Saban, and it's continued to grow and flourish. And you've seen all these changes. You've seen a number of coaches and a number of coaches' wives. Are you close to the coaches' wives?
Oh yes, oh yes. Because we give them so much that I learned to, become their friend and talk to them about things, but I don't get too tight because then if they leave, it hurts. So
Yeah.
I don't want to have that problem, but no, I respect and I love them, and they've always been wonderful. I mean, from Terry DiNardo, then Terry Saban, Kathy Miles, and now we have Kelly Orgeron. They're wonderful. They really do appreciate the fact that we're talking about academics.
I bet.
Part of it is, what do you want your husband's regime to be? Yes, you want your husband to win because he won't keep his job unless he wins. But if you graduate these kids, that's a good feeling. A mother wants to see another mother succeed. And these moms, when they come with their kids for recruiting, they want their kids to graduate.
Those graduation percentages were not always great, but they are really
Oh, well, I have
great
to
now,
tell you the
aren't
exciting news now.
Yeah.
It's up to 90%.
Yeah, how about that?
They didn't always keep tabs on the graduation success rate, but they started about 9 years ago. And in that 9 year, we have come from 69 to now 90%. 90% graduation
That's
of
terrific.
all student athletes. Now, the Bells make their money in the 3 months that we have football season. You're not going to make money any other way.
How do you make money? And I want to hear about the money you've given back.
The way you make money is you get sponsors. We have like 40 people in the community that sponsor our luncheons.
Okay.
And at $1,200 a pop.
You have luncheons before each home game? Is
No,
that right?
we used to have a lot of luncheons, but we've cut back to 4 just because it's a lot of work. It's
Right.
an event. You're putting on an event. You can't put on an event every 2 weeks. So we have 4 luncheons. We have the kickoff, which is the head coach. Then we have one in September that's, a fun one. And then the one in October is always about cancer. So now we call it the Pink and Teal Luncheon, and we do all about cancer awareness. Because most of your LSU sports, your coaches have bought into, let's really push awareness about cancer. It affects everybody.
And you're coming up to, this will be a weekend of a final home game, so that carries special significance, I would think.
Well, in a way,
For seniors.
yes, for
The
seniors.
final home game of the season.
Because they do get recognized, but we have a senior day. We have our final luncheon is on a Friday, and it's called Senior Day. We honor the seniors. And we pick a luncheon that hopefully the parents are coming to, so that way they come to the luncheon. This year we actually included the parents. We have a parade. We have the LSU band attends. They play. We have a parade. We had real floats that we rented from this man a wonderful man, and his crew is Comago.
It's a proud organization.
Oh.
What are you most proud of? If you can name a few things
Okay.
you're most proud of.
First of all, we really started talking about academics and the balance of a program, of a university. to make academics an important part of your program. I mean, you want to win, but you want to have balance.
And we're saying football, but you guys, you work with all sports.
All sports. We give to the Academic Center, and we help all sports. But anyway, so you want to have a winning program. You want to have graduation rate at a high level. Me personally, I don't want Michigan. I don't want Notre Dame. I don't want Penn State. I don't want those people to be better than us. Why? Don't strive to be as good, be better.
They talk about giving back. How much have you guys
We've given over
back?
$1 million back.
Over $1 million.
It took us 18 years, that's a lot of money because we only have 3 months to make money.
Yeah.
And anyway, we do a raffle every week. We make money every kind of way you can make it, but it happens, you know,
Yeah,
it works.
It sounds like it, and well organized also, and fun.
I think when you're happy and you're positive, Coach O is going to do great. I am a very positive person about how he has turned his program around, and he loves LSU.
Yeah, we know that. So do you.
So do I. Do
so much
very
fun
much.
to talk to you.
Same
really
here.
enjoyed it.
Same
and
here,
the
Andre.
work you do is terrific.
Thank you.
For more information, you can go online to bells.tigerboosterclubs.org. And coming up on LPB next week.
In the 1960s and 70s, thousands of Louisianans in uniform entered a world of combat in a war that divided our nation. When it was over, some 58,000 Americans were killed, and among those were almost 1,000 of our own. And now, nearly 50 years later, Louisiana's Vietnam War veterans have come to tell the stories of where and how they served.
The Vietnam War Louisiana Stories airs Tuesday night, November 28th at 7 o'clock on LPB. Hey everyone, that's our show for this week. Remember, you can watch LPB on demand on your phone or tablet with our LPB Anywhere app. The download is free from your app store. You can also catch LPB news and public affairs shows, plus other Louisiana programs you've come to enjoy over the years. And please like us on Facebook as well. For everyone at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Morrow. Hope you had a happy Thanksgiving, and thanks for watching. Until next time, that's the state we're in.
Check us out on Facebook and Twitter, and visit lpb.org, where you can view more stories and leave us a comment. This program is available on DVD. Support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum. Located in Jennings City Hall, the museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is a historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. Additional support provided by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and viewers like you.